6 o'clock?
Yep, we're at 6.
Good evening. I would like to call Independent School District 721 to order. Janelle, please note that all board members are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a special presentation. Crystal Erickson and Mary Bartuszek.
Short, which I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here. My name is Mary Bartuszek. I'm the supervisor for the early learning programs. And tonight with me is Crystal Erickson, who is a paraprofessional for our program, but also serves many other hats. Crystal has a 4-year degree, and so went ahead and has a short call license and really saved us last year many times when we were short-staffed. She would step into the preschool classroom or the ECFE classroom and was always very flexible with that. So wanted to recognize her for that as well, and including what the project that she undertook and helped execute for our community members and families birth to 5. Last spring, we were given the opportunity to apply for a grant from the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, and we did do that, and we received $20,000. We are part of that coalition, and so we were very excited to be able to take that money and use it for birth to 5 families and children entering kindergarten this fall, and really enhance their development and provide them with activities and things to do, especially during the time of the continuing pandemic, but when everything was really closed down. So I'm going to pass it over to Crystal because she's going to explain what we did with that money.
Good evening. As Mary said, the grant was a $20,000 gift. It was a very generous grant, which has allowed us to do quite a few things. This summer, more than 800 kits were put together and distributed to our birth to kindergarten age students and kiddos. We also, with the money, and I'll show you some pictures and some fun stats of what we did this summer after I explain what the money was all used for, but we used it for those 800 kits. We also will use some of these funds to continue our popular outdoor story walks. Throughout the past years, an event that we could do to kind of allow ECFE type event to still happen was to do these outdoor story walks that were held outdoors where social distancing could be practiced. So we will be able to continue the outdoor story walks thanks to this gift, and also we will be able to reintroduce our Daycare Express program, which was put on pause during COVID, but with this additional funding, we will be able to get that back up and going. And what that does is it provides support to our daycare providers within our community. So I have just a couple of pictures to show you of all the fun things we were able to do this year. So again, this grant is thanks to the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. We've been working closely with Jeff Andrews, who is the early childhood business consultant, and also Tim Penny, who is the president and CEO of the foundation. So this is kind of I hope you all can see that okay. This is kind of the project. So imagine what putting together 800 kits looks like. We took over my basement. This is some group of volunteers. Many of them are my kids and my kids' friends who help me assemble these 800 kits this summer. So I would like to recognize those volunteers. Victoria Erickson, my daughter, Ellie O'Brien, grade 7, Zoe Junker, grade 7, Annie Blashko, grade 7, Nate Erickson, my son, grade 9, and Ashlyn Erickson, my oldest daughter, grade 11. So we assembled all of these kits in our basement this summer just to make it easy. So here's a couple photos of them putting them together. I also brought a couple samples of what these kits look like. They included all kinds of fun activities. I sat down with kindergarten teachers and preschool teachers, and we came up with some good tools that would be easy for families to use to kind of bridge any type of gap over the summer and also provide support to families. So there's some good instructions and some good information for families on social emotional types of things, and just lots of fun games that they can play with these. So these are some of the kits. This is the baby kit. It includes some sensory items and some activity cards to do with baby. This is an example of the preschool kit. It includes a deck of cards with New Prague's logo on it, some water paints and other fun stuff. So I brought just a couple of those kits in. Moving on, so here's some more pictures of major production. 330 kindergarten kits were delivered to building principals in June. Those principals were then able to distribute the kits to kids who came in for tours or if they went out in the community and did visits, etc. Then, after those were done, we started working on the preschool kits, which throughout the month of July and August, parents have been able to come in and pick up their kit for their children in our hallway down in the early learning wing. And these are just some pictures of what each kit kind of contained. Scrolling through that, we have received some great feedback from the community. A couple of thank you notes. I just shared one here that Mr. Principal Giesen had shared with me from a family just thanking us for doing this and securing this grant to be able to provide it. The newspaper did a really nice article back in June, I think. And then here are some pictures of the outdoor story walks that we'll be able to continue. This is what we did this last year. The walks were held at here in the CEC. Maybe some of you saw them. They were also held at Falcon Ridge, Ravenstream, Malastrana, Elko New Market Library, the Market Village over in Elko New Market, and the Firehouse Grill. And we kept track of, we had a little journal for everybody to sign their name in. We kept track, and over 500 people participated in those outdoor story walks. So we're hoping to do that again this year, and with the Smith funds, we'll be able to purchase some of the books and some of the more permanent structures to be able to secure the books. So here's some fun pictures of kids enjoying this activity and getting exercise and moving around with their families. And then the third project that I had described earlier, that this grant was going to help us reinstate our Daycare Express program. And here are some pictures of our teacher, Miss Tara, going out into the daycares and kind of bringing ECFE to the in-home daycare. And not only bringing ECFE in, but also providing support and some training. So that's what we've been doing. That's what our summer has been busy, but good, and it's been a fun project. So I'm just happy Mary asked me to come and share it with all of you.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure and recognize Crystal, because without her, this would not have happened. She is always saying yes to things. She's enthusiastic about things. And, Tim talks often about, schools are not about the buildings. It's about the individual people that come here and who are compassionate and really care about what they're doing. And here's one that is. And I just want to say thank you to Crystal, and we're so fortunate to have her. And I wanted you to be able to recognize her as well. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you to everybody else
Yeah.
for coming to see that.
For early childhood.
Thanks, Crystal.
You did great.
Great.
Thanks, Janelle.
Thanks, Janelle.
Thank you, guys.
Well, as we prepare for our open forum, I would like to thank all of you, there's a few of you, for coming and spending the evening with us. I know you've taken time out of your family schedule to be here, and we appreciate that. But one thing I need you to keep in mind is this meeting is open to the public. It's not a public meeting. So I talked to many of you who were at the last meeting, and so we just need to keep it very respectful and in control. So please remember that the open forum, we have guidelines. I have 11 people who wish to speak to the board and to the community. So our goal is to provide orderly and efficient and fair opportunity for those who are presenting. So please be respectful during their 5-minute time. Please no attacks on anyone addressing the school board. Remember, there's no personal attacks. Persistence in such ways or remarks by individuals shall be terminated, and your privilege to address the board will be terminated. Again, members of the audience are asked to refrain from any demonstration of support or opposition during the time or at the conclusion of any speaker's comments. Okay? So with that, our first speaker is Mr. Rick Exton, sorry about that. You can go ahead and have a chair. He is speaking to us tonight on masks.
Hello, my name is Rick Eckstein. I'm a resident of New Prague, and I also have a student in the New Prague School District. I'd like to start off saying that I completely support the school district's policy of only recommending that our kids wear masks in school, but not mandating it. So thank you, Mr. Dittburner, for taking that policy at this time. I appreciate that. I understand that the school district's policy is based on what is coming from the governor's office and the Minnesota Department of Education. But I firmly believe that it is a parent's decision on whether or not their child should sit in a classroom all day with the mask on. As a society in this country, I feel over the years, we as parents have lost so much say over what happens to our kids. So I'm here today to make my voice and concerns heard. Concerning the policy on masks, people will cite various studies and articles that claim the science indicates wearing a mask should be mandated. But the so-called science has been all over the place. Dr. Fauci initially said, way back in February 2020, no masks were needed in this country. Then it was wear a mask to protect yourself. Then it's wear a mask to protect somebody else. And then it's get the vaccine and you don't need a mask. Now it's wear a mask, get the vaccine to protect everybody, and then those people are still getting the virus. Some people may argue that the science is changing as we learn more about the virus. I understand that thought. But the guidelines for masks have been inconsistent and contradictory at best, and deceiving at worst. And the word science is thrown around as fact, when to be quite honest, everybody can cherry pick a study or an article that supports their science, their position, which is in fact their opinion. I could stand here and cite various studies that indicate that masks are not effective and that they're unable to prevent the transfer of virus due to the very small particle of the virus itself. There are also studies that show the negative impact on social interacting and learning on our kids over this past year for having to wear a mask. But I'm not going to sit here today and give you all those studies. I'm here to support the policy that masks not be mandated. If there's any parent who wants to send their kid to a school in New Prague with a mask on, they have every right to do so. But those parents should not take away my right to decide that I don't want my child sitting in a classroom for 6 to 8 hours a day with a mask on. The governor and the Department of Education of Minnesota, at some point during this school year, may change that policy. I understand that. But I would encourage this school district to not accept that without a challenge. And there's precedent for that. Back in March of 2020, the governor announced that he was going to continue the restriction on places of worship and churches to limit it to only 10% of capacity. The bishops also announced after that they were going to defy that policy. And after discussions between the leaders of the governor's office and the bishops, they came to a compromise. So there's precedent for not just accepting what comes out of St. Paul. Why am I making the argument now about a mask mandate when the current policy is just a recommendation? Because if the governor and the Department of Education at some point during this school year does change the policy and implements a mask mandate, at that point it's too late. What are the chances of me coming and making an impact to change a decision and a policy that has already been implemented? That's why I bring that point forward right now. I believe that the overwhelming percent of parents in this school district would agree with the recommendation of recommending but not mandating that students wear masks in school. Any teacher or student who wants to wear a mask is free to do so. Again, I thank you for giving me time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Jonathan Lake.
I don't think they heard you.
Next up, Jonathan Lake.
Right. Hello, my name is Jonathan Lake. I am a senior at New Prague High School. And a couple things to know about me. All throughout high school, I have been a big part in the theater, and I've been a big part in Emotion, which is the show choir performance group. And I've been a part of those because they're a huge part of who I am, and I love the creativity in both of those things. And I also really like learning. I'm one of those people who like going to school, and I like getting more educated, and I like being able to retain knowledge. Last year, because of the policies, all of those things were taken away from me in school. And so I would like to first start off by saying thank you for your decision to vote no masking. So the point of me talking is to encourage you to stay firm in that decision because I'm sure the governor or the CDC or someone else will make a recommendation to continue like we did last year. And the way that last year was handled made it difficult for extracurricular activities and for learning. So, a little bit of how it affected my education and the education of others. The mask actually caused me to have worse allergies, and a lot of people in the class, and wearing the mask all day actually made us sound more sick than better. After countless precautions, including masking, we still did not get to perform for an audience for the show, the musical, last spring, and we had to pre-record our songs at home and send them in to lip sync during the performance. So he told us to wear masks to protect us and so we would be able to do this, and then we still didn't really get to do it. We miss seeing our friends smile and laugh. There's a lot of serotonin that's released in the brain when you see other people happy, and so that whole part of making a day better was taken away. When my mask would come off or down a little bit during school, a couple students and teachers would yell at me, or a student called me a killer, and a teacher told me that I was a danger to my friends. With constant social media usage in this day and age, my generation is already the most irrationally anxious generation, and telling us that we will die if we don't wear a cloth over our faces of a disease that poses nearly no threat to us will push us over the edge. And we've already had over a year of that, and so ask that you, again, stay with your decision. So 2 classes that I took choir and Spanish, and I will continue to take choir and Spanish. Last year, choir was not really choir because there was a no singing rule, even with masks, which again were given to us to wear so that we could have class, and then we still didn't have class. And since we weren't able to sing, we didn't get to do what we signed up for and develop our art of singing and learning how to perform classical music. And then Spanish was really difficult to learn, especially speaking and listening. Interpersonal speaking is 30% of our grade for that class, and 50% of the time, my teacher partnered us up with other classmates who had to wear face masks the whole time. So the listening was difficult to learn, and lip reading is a huge part of learning any language, and so that was completely out of the question for us to use during that class. And quite frankly, that hindered my education, and I am terrified to go into next year knowing as little or less than I should know. So just a couple numbers for the mask mandate, because we all like numbers. 4.2 million children have had COVID. 0.008, which is 334, have died. In the 2018 to 2019 flu season, the flu killed 480 children, which is 146 more than have killed COVID in a year. In 2018 alone, 619,951 abortions were performed, which means you are 1,856 times more likely to not be born than you are to die from COVID. With such a small risk, forcing muzzles on children like dogs all day is child abuse for physical abuse and mental abuse. Long-term mask wearing can cause or worsen symptoms of tooth decay, skin and respiratory irritation, which I struggled with, the respiratory. I was sick a couple years ago, and it kind of messed up my lungs, and so wearing the mask for that long made it worse. Gum inflammation, and even a more serious case of pneumonia. And to back that study up, since 2019, before masks, there has been an average of 506,877 death increase in this year alone. In 2020, the deaths caused by pneumonia were 550,758 deaths. In 2019, they were 43,881 deaths. So my closing statement, please do not let any mandates sway your decision toward the harm of students for yet another year. Again, I encourage you in all decision-making to choose not appeasing walls or the CDC or anyone making offers, but to choose me, choose the student body, choose our rights to a great education, choose freedom, for it is our American right, and we're counting on you to stand up for those rights. Thank you.
Terry Peterson.
I was hoping not to follow him. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am here as the mother of a student here in the district and as the grandmother of a preschooler and a first grader in another district. Our children are being harmed. Masks are harming our children physically, emotionally, and psychologically. My grandson was in kindergarten last year. He came home one day and he asked his mom if she washed his masks. She said, "Yeah, why?" He told her that he was afraid he got too close to one of his friends and that he was worried that he got him sick. My daughter told him not to worry because he wasn't sick. My grandson looked up at her and he said, "Then why am I wearing a mask?" He is a little boy and he was afraid he was hurting someone else just by standing too close to him. It is horrific and disgusting that any child should have to worry about something like that. That same little grandson of mine has asthma. He was in the hospital with low oxygen levels and a fever after running around outside at school with a mask on for track and field day. He went right from the nurse's office directly to the ER that day. This is unacceptable. Otherwise, healthy children are not dying from COVID. Most are either not affected by it at all, or they have only mild cold or flu symptoms from it. And for this, we are making our children fear the air they breathe and fear being close to one another to do what they do best, play and have fun. We pulled our middle schooler last year because there was no way we were going to allow her to wear a mask all day, and we will not hesitate to pull her again if the mask insanity continues this year. These are our children, not the state's and not the school's, and we as parents will decide what's best for their overall health and well-being. There will be no compromise on the issue. Thank you.
Tyler Yearby.
You guys mind if I stand?
That's fine, as
Thank you.
long as we can hear you.
I think they'll hear me. I greatly appreciate it. Just wanted to ask you politely first. First of all, thank you very much for having us tonight, and thank you guys so much for being here. It's awesome to see this much energy in a room, and you also see interconnectedness. You see relationships. To give you a little bit of background on myself, I am a human movement scientist, and my background is in motor learning and motor control, or essentially how human beings interact with the world around them to create purposeful movement. Now, one thing that you need to know is that we don't operate in silos, we actually operate somewhere. And when we operate somewhere, we rely on relationships, expressions. Our perceptual awareness allows us to pick up information that allows us to then organize coordinated, controlled movements. Now, you may be wondering why I'm mentioning this. I'm mentioning this because whenever we discuss relationships, and when we talk about that at the human movement level, that goes from toddlers that are maybe unaware of how they're actually behaving, all the way up through athletes and then the elderly population. Now, one thing that is threaded through all people and all mankind is the fact that we rely on these relationships to thrive and live. Now, an important piece that I want you to remember is that that relationship piece is not separated and should not be separated, because it will then kill off mankind. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. So why I'm here, I encourage you guys to stand firm on what the decision that you have made thus far in going 6-0 or 7-0, whatever it may be, as far as the decision to eliminate masks. And I think that is the first step to eliminating our liberties. And that last part of the national anthem there, or the Pledge of Allegiance, that liberty piece is crucial, because what we need is we need interrelationships, we need interconnectedness, and we need that to thrive and to live. Now, my background being motor learning and motor control, most of my time has been spent in skill acquisition, so essentially how we learn to coordinate and control movements over lengthy time scales. So both short time scales of learning and longer time scales of learning. Now, there are a lot of scientists out there, myself being one of them, that believes that we are adapting over time. We are adapting to our environment, and we are essentially learning to become skillful in our environment and adept with our movements, whether that be for sport or whether that be for life. And that all occurs through relationships and perceptual awareness and perceptual sensitivity to our surroundings. Now, I'm obviously giving you a little bit of a glimpse on motor behavior and how that actually plays into both life movements, and then my area of expertise being human movement as it pertains to sport movements. And we're talking about coordinated and controlled actions that occur in a dynamic and ballistic environment such as American football and the like. Now, you may be wondering, why am I now mentioning this? All of this relies on relationships and interconnectedness, functioning as a complex adaptive system. Now, the important piece about a complex adaptive system is that you have independent component parts that come together to form a unique whole. Now, these independent component parts that may be children that are wanting to play with their friends, that is very hard when we have constraints on behavior. Now, constraints can be thought of as individual constraints, so think of pressure, anxiety, fatigue, height, weight, intellect. They can be environmental constraints, such as masking, not masking, temperature, humidity. They can also be, on top of individual, be task constraints. Now, task may be in the form of rules, down and distance in American football, or it may be rules in the classroom, something that is going to influence how behavior occurs. Now, behavior occurs under constraint. Now, the awesome part is as rule makers and as people who are then going to enforce the rule, you have a really, really unique task ahead of you, which is ensuring that you are part of that complex adaptive system that allows for a constraint to influence the behavior of young children. And then obviously the brave young man that spoke before us, influencing how they then go about learning. And a learning is not occurred and then stored somewhere as a representation in the brain, rather learning adapts over time. If we think about the word ecology, so how we interact with human beings around us, how we interact with our environment, we very much rely on information, and we rely on information through our perceptual systems. Now, if we think about blunting a particular perceptual system, we're going to highly limit the relationships and the interconnectedness that can occur. So as a parent of a 5.5-year-old that's not even in the school district yet completely, and a 2.5-year-old, I am standing here and highly encouraging you to just be curious. I say that simply because learning starts with curiosity. And I want you to ask yourself the question, if you were in our shoes, how would you handle this situation? And I would imagine that means that you would probably want to have choice on your part. And so we're asking for the opportunity to be able to choose whether we want to mask, not mask, or whether we want our children to be able to be subjected to CRT or not subjected to CRT. And I also would inspire you to become curious, to dive in a little bit deeper to what's occurring at the teaching level and what people are pushing that is beyond their scope and beyond their boundaries and what they should be doing. Now, my point of speaking tonight was not to come up here and pontificate about my area of expertise. By no means is that the case. I want to give you a glimpse on complex adaptive systems. It's not a cause and effect. There are many independent component parts that occur. Yes, ma'am.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay. So with that being said, I inspire you to be curious. Think for yourselves, which you obviously are doing at this moment in time. Don't just take one side of the story and think that is the entire truth. Look across the spectrum. It is going to change rapidly. And I want you to understand that we are very passionate individuals such as yourselves, and we want to stand for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. John Steffens.
Thank you so much. I'm going to sit because I've been standing. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Pastor John Steffens. I'm the pastor at Community Baptist Church here in town. I was born and raised here in New Prague. My wife and I both attended New Prague High School, and all the way from kindergarten all the way through. We have one son in elementary school, and we have one son that's approaching school age. And first, I want to express just my gratitude and appreciation for every teacher, coach, or staff member of NPAS schools through the years. We truly appreciate this school district. We appreciate so many ways in which I know the Lord has used in my life, my wife's life, to just help mold and shape us in some way. And so we really appreciate that. I've had the privilege of not only growing up here in this community, but also the privilege of serving as a spiritual leader and shepherd to children and families in this community. Not only do I hold degrees in pastoral ministry, but I also hold a master's degree in counseling. And our church has offered free counseling to anyone in need for years. I've had a front row seat to the challenges that school-age children have faced through this COVID era. I have had have been firsthand working with children and families that have been influenced by the unsupported drumbeat that COVID is a continual and imminent threat to children in our schools. My concerns tonight are also personal. As a child, my earliest memories were ones of paralyzing fear and anxiety. As a teen, I lived a bottled-up life of fear and anxiety, social anxiety, that eventually led me into depression. I didn't talk to others at school about it. I didn't know how to talk about it. But it was there, and it wouldn't go away. Fear of the unknown, fear of death, fear of harm, and many other types of fears gripped me. Now, I can only imagine how much this struggle would have been magnified in this COVID era if I was walking the halls still at this time. And though I didn't fully understand my struggles and I couldn't explain them, didn't talk to teachers about it, but you know who was there for me? It was my parents. They were there when I couldn't bottle it up anymore, when the mask came off from school. And even though they didn't know how to help, they didn't know what to do, I know they were always there. They possessed the God-given, inherent, and inalienable right as a parent to guide me and decide what is best for me. Now, I believe, as I'm sure you all agree, that there are many children right now who are experiencing the same riptide of fear and anxiety and depression that is dragging them out to sea. But see, it's hard to quantify it because the kids don't talk about it. Now, I would encourage you as a board, as many others already have, to please consider the fact that influencing our children to live in fear has greater long-term effects than contracting a virus that has a 0.008% chance of posing a physical threat to them. I mean, just this month, JAMA Pediatrics released findings that there has been a 20 to 25% global increase of anxiety and depression in children since COVID. They go on to state, and I quote, that this problem warrants attention for mental health recovery and planning. Now, as I think about this as a spiritual leader, and I think about this for you as a board, how can we begin this recovery process together? Well, one of the first ways is for you as a board to make a commitment that you'll not submit yourselves to mandates now or in the future that require our children to live in a school environment that influences them to live in fear and anxiety. This would include forced face coverings, forced testing, forced vaccinations, or any form of forced quarantines, because our kids need a healthy education without unwarranted fear. Our kids need healthy social interaction, not fearful isolation. See, as a voice for parents and even some staff members, I ask you to respect our inherent right to decide what is best for our children. Whether we want our children in school to wear a face covering or be tested or be vaccinated or participate in any form of quarantine is our right as a parent to decide. We're here to ask you to stand with us. We don't want to take our children out of the school district, but many I know are prepared to do so, and it truly pains me to say that. It really does, because it's the last thing I want to do. I know that you are in this position because you love the school district, just like I do, and because you love the kids and family of this school district, just like I do. We're all here as one voice to say that we'll fully support you as you fully support us and our rights now and in the future. Thank you.
Jason Kadada.
Hello, my name is Jason Kadada. I have a 10-year-old boy who's going into 5th grade. I feel like a lot of these decisions are being made in the opposite direction that science is telling us. I have yet to see a study where it shows masks can stop COVID. Maybe the school could supply us with where they are getting their data to base their decisions off of. Wearing a mask to protect you from COVID is like going deer hunting with an accordion, in my opinion. Why are we putting our kids through this? As a parent, I feel we are capable of doing what is best for our kids. I am not asking you to ban masks, but to let it be the parent's choice. We as parents have made choices to deal with challenges since they were born. Why are we not able to do the right thing now? A little bit of freedom would be nice right about now. I am also concerned that there have been studies showing that masks, if worn for a long period of time, can cause long-term breathing issues in kids because their lungs are still developing, which seems a lot more risky to go down that road. I ask to just let our kids be kids. This is not healthy in so many ways. The side effects of lockdowns and masks are far more worse for kids than COVID. There has been an increase in suicides and depression that is not what we want. At the end of the day, we are just parents wanting to use common sense for the common good of our kids and our future. Let's let New Prague set itself apart from the other schools and be a true leader, not a follower. Thank you for your time.
Jeffrey Lynch.
Hello, thank you. I'm a little nervous. I wrote my notes down, but I didn't write them maybe too well. So we'll see how it goes. Well, I'm Jeff. I got a 10-year-old going into the 5th grade here at Falcon Ridge. And I must say, every year the teacher he has is like, she's the best one yet. So my experience with her has been great. I have a junior going into college at Winona. And her experience at New Prague is the same. I mean, she wants to be a teacher, so that's great. And I have a son who's going to turn 22 this coming month. And he just started an adventure with his career, and the same thing. I have nothing but praise to say about New Prague. So, but I do have a concern. I mean, obviously, we've been hearing a lot about CRT, and then, like, I came not to the last board meeting, but the prior one, and I had friends saying, yeah, I'm thinking it's no big deal. I don't think it's happening in our school. And that's like, no, you need to come to the board meeting and see for yourself if this is what's being discussed. And yep, I got there, and I heard a couple speakers for CRT, and I heard some that were against CRT. For me, I'm half Korean, I'm half white, and it gets kind of puzzled when you talk about CRT, because it's like, all right, it's half of me the oppressor, and the other half is, the victim. So I'm really against this CRT, and I'm not sure, because they say CRT is a college course, you don't have to worry about this. They're not going to teach this to your kids, but like they're integrating it, because I watch videos, people keep sending me videos, and I'm watching these videos, and you're seeing books here and there talking about whiteness, talking about, like I said, white people are the oppressors, black people are the victims kind of mentality. It's like you're reversing the racism. And to me, it's like, this year and a half, besides COVID, it's like everything's just going over my head. It's like, I don't understand how we want to teach our kids to be, turn on each other. So, and not only that, the last board meeting, someone even said that one of the board members even brought up the white privilege. And don't get me wrong, if you're for white privilege, if you read your book, White Fragility, and that makes you feel like you could cope with racism, then all for it, right? If it makes you dwell at, open up yourself to not be racist, and it helps you, I'm all for that. But for me, and I think for a lot of people, I don't need someone telling me, I already know I'm not racist, right? I don't need all this, like I said, the craziness that's going on that's making it sound like everything is just racist. It's like if you voted for Trump, you're a racist. If you, Tim Tebow got, he got on I forgot what team it was, and it was like, oh yeah, his white privilege. It's just like everything I watch, I can't watch TV anymore, because it's like everything has to do with race. We watch our Olympics and it was heartbreaking for me, because it's like, what is CRT doing? It's like we're attacking this country that I love. And I mean, my privilege, I think, is I had the privilege of my dad being in the military, right? So I was an Army brat. I moved around everywhere. I love this country. Like my dad, like I said, I'm all over the place. That's it. I'm going off with the notes. All right. I'm just going to tell a little story about myself. All right. So, like when we think about the history of this country, and I'm talking all of it, because I know a couple weeks ago, that one meeting I went to, when they were arguing about CRT, it's like, no, we need to tell you the real history of America, the real history. We slaughtered the Indians. We put the blacks as slaves. We did all these horrible things, right? And yeah, we did. We did a lot of bad things. If you look in the whole world, no country is perfect. Every country has done the same thing. But America, we continue to change. Women were able to vote, they could vote. Blacks were slaves, they're not slaves. Are we perfect? No. But in 2021, is a million times better than it was 40 years ago. A million times better than it was 20 years ago or 10 years ago. We continue to get better. We strive for perfection, right? When the free world is in chaos, who do they look to? America. So to me, that's just as important to teach our kids, because right now it's like CRT's turning our kids against each other, because we have, it's like, I don't know where the Asians are on the top, right? You got the whites, you got the blacks, where's the Asians, right? And we talk about, and I understand there's inequalities in this country for people of color, right? I totally agree. And I'm one of those that fight for that. But we've come so far, and it's like, why we want to pull ourselves backwards? We need to keep moving forward. It's like, I'm JV, I'm assistant coach here at New Prague for the boys soccer team. And the one thing I love about coaching is I got to interact with these kids. And all I do with these kids, and believe me, I've been coaching them since 5 all the way up to 18. And my joy is working with these kids. And believe me, I've had kids that, man, this kid shouldn't be playing soccer, but I didn't care. My focus was this kid wants to play soccer. I'm going to make it enjoyable for him. I'm going to do all that I can to inspire him, to set an example for him. And to be honest, it's been a blessing to me because I have so many athletes that have come back to me and just their experience with me was so positive, right? And the teachers have been the same.
Jeff, you're over your 5 minutes. I'm going to give you 15 seconds to wrap up. 15 minutes. I'm sorry. Not 15 minutes, 15 seconds.
My thing is I'm just worried about the CRT, what it's going to inflict into our children, because it's teachers, coaches, we're on the same page. We want the best for our kids. We don't want to turn our kids against each other. We need to love our country. We need to love each other. We're all Americans. I don't care what race, I don't care what creed, what religion, whatever. This is America, and I love everyone, and I hope everyone in this room has the same feeling. Come support the varsity JV.
Okay, sorry, but when I put my finger up, you've got 30 seconds, but it was hard to cut you off, so sorry. All right, David Anderson.
Well, I didn't prepare any notes, so I was just asked to speak shortly, not too far before the meeting. So, but I want to address two issues. The new freshman seminar class that was put on the freshman calendar this year, and why some of us were concerned about that previously. When that class was going to change back in April, I addressed the administration that parents should be involved in that class if it's going to be controversial at all. And when it was put on the calendar, or actually my daughter is, Dave Anderson from Lonsdale. I have a daughter who's in 9th grade this year, a senior this year, and I'm concerned because this isn't something new. The CRT, the race thing, how this all started for me getting involved in seeing where it was coming from is an 8th grade class project where the children were supposed to be given an option to pick an article and write a compare and contrast. Instead, they were given an article in 8th grade, and it was written by a 17-year-old in Oklahoma, and it was a journal article. So nobody's proofing it, nobody's giving it any advice one way or another. And in that article, he talks about how he's pulled over twice, and that because of his experience of driving versus driving with somebody else, that somehow the cops were racist. I have 20 years of public safety background. I'm currently in the legal analyst at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and I have some background with public safety and criminal justice. When I read that article, I was deeply disturbed that all the students were forced to write a compare and contrast on something and not given the choice on what they should write on. So that article, I'd be happy to send my prepared notes because I didn't do it now, with an attachment of that article that was written last year. Kind of got me thinking about what this new class would be in 9th grade. Wrote it in April, said, hey, parents need to be involved. I know it was on the agenda in the last school board meeting. I wasn't able to make it. So when my daughter was enrolled in that class and it was considered required, I got to concern, started reading the syllabus, what it was all about. And part of my history is that for the last 25 years, every case law, everything that the Supreme Court does in Minnesota and nationally, I read. That's part of my job. So I know a little bit about the history of the Constitution and a little bit about case law, and that class was based all on the preamble of the Constitution and on basic concepts like justice. Now, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Constitution, but there wasn't no Bill of Rights when the original Constitution was passed. Justice is only mentioned 3 times in the preamble. Once in Article 2, Section 4, or Article 2, Section 3, and one in Article 4, Section 3. One that addresses the Chief Justice and what he can and cannot do when it comes to impeachment, and the second one is when somebody's fleeing justice. So justice means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So you can imagine what an opinionated class can morph into based on an outline of a class that really was done in short order and presented with very little time before our parents got to review any of it. This is brand new. My son took civics. I took civics. I would imagine everybody in this class took civics. What was wrong with the 9th grade civics we had in place? That we needed a new freshman seminar. I'm all right with opinion-based classes. Throw them in college. You can pay for them if you want. Make it an elective, but make it a requirement on our kids where we're based more on opinion than actual facts. Our kids need to learn facts. That's what history is about, learning the facts. Part of that syllabus talks about the Bill of Rights and what rights were given to us in the Bill of Rights. There's no such thing. The Bill of Rights didn't give us rights. The Bill of Rights was there to protect rights we already had. So we have loose things like that in that syllabus, which are to me, sloppy. From a syllabus perspective, from a class perspective, you can take any of those terms in the preamble. None of them were debated at the Constitutional Convention. They called it the Great 100 Days of Debate, but none of those concepts were debated. They debated form of government, how we elect a president. Bill of Rights wasn't even passed until after the first Congress came into being, after the 13 states enacted the Constitution. So my daughter, she's going to come ask me for facts based on a class that doesn't really push the facts, but push more opinion. First thing I did was send the counselor an email saying I wanted to change her out of that class. There was no options. We didn't plan well as a school because there was no options for these kids. If we as parents, which our choice is whether they can be in those classes or not, pull them out, there was no option to put them anywhere. In fact, a lot of the classes that were available were no longer available, and we canceled a bunch of classes that didn't have good enrollment. So I was one of the first ones that my daughter disenrolled out of that class. She's already in Minnesota history. She'll take plenty of history classes that are actually history classes. I know a number in this room did the exact same thing. So I'm not here to say you can't have that, but it should have been optional. It shouldn't have been something we're forcing our kids. Forcing a bunch of opinions on 9th graders where minds are being developed at that point, they're not ready for that. Maybe in 9th grade in college when they're paying for it, I'm all for it. But for us as taxpayers paying for it, I'm not all for it. So those are my basic comments. I applaud all those that are talking about the math. The only thing, my son is a senior. We've had 2 senior classes that basically lost their seniorhood. And I want my son to graduate here from New Prague High School as a senior without masks. He's already told me we mask up, he's coming out. He's not going to go to school. My daughter's in 9th grade. She's the same way. Same thing with vaccinations. Pfizer just got approved today. If they make that a mandate where my kids get vaccinated, they won't be coming to school either. So that's my choice. That's their choice. That's a family choice. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hey, Rick Stidger.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Stidger. I have 6 kids, thinking about adopting 2 more. These are my youngest 2, Jack and Lainey. You guys want to say hi?
Hi.
You guys see how happy they are? Or can't you? Can you see their expressions? Can you see they're having fun in school? Can you see mine? You know, I spent 20 years photographing. My job was to watch every single person and read their expression. How am I supposed to know what my two kids are thinking if I can't see their expression? Here, Jack, get up to the microphone. Jack, tell me the number. Well, you tell them. You ask them. See if they know. He's shy like me. The number one cause of death in 1918, and I have a handout for you guys, if you guys would like to read it, because I'm not a college guy really, but you need references. This is from the NIH, the National Institute of Health. I don't trust the CDC, I don't trust a few of the other ones, but I do trust the NIH. And when the NIH says that the number one cause of death in 1918 during the Spanish flu pandemic was...
Bacterial pneumonia.
Take your mask off and they'll hear you. Do it again.
Bacterial pneumonia.
Bacterial pneumonia, and he's only 7 and he knows. That's pretty sad. Turn off the media, turn off all this crap that everybody's watching. It's ridiculous. I wasn't prepared as some of these guys were because they were awesome, but I just want to, I have proof here. Lainey, take your mask off. I'm killing you. This is like child abuse. I'm going to take your mask off. I mean it. Wow. See, they've been brainwashed. Unbelievable. I have proof that masks cause more harm than good. And these kids that are wearing masks for 2 hours or 4 hours, I'll just read, here's 11 dangerous pathogens. One's pneumonia, one's tuberculosis, meningitis and sepsis, food poisoning from E. coli, diphtheria, Lyme disease, urinary tract infections. These are things that we're giving our children by making them wear masks. This isn't rocket science. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but by gosh, I'm not stupid. I know enough that these kids shouldn't be wearing masks in school. And I'm a graduate in 1989. I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting up here talking to you guys. Never thought in a million years. But I am. You know why? Because I care about these two. Because they're my future, and they're your future. And everybody should care about these kids. And by making them wear masks, you don't. My opinion, of course. I want to get to CRT just for a second. Because my kids won't be in CRT here. They won't be. I said it last time. I think it's my job as a father to teach my children, character, and I think it is. Wrong and right. I would rather have you teach my children patriotism. I would rather have you teach our children how to love America. Not to get into your liberalism and socialism, because those are just, communism with perfume sprayed on them. It's true. I want you guys to teach our children, because I didn't learn this, I've learned it since, who really owns the Federal Reserve? Who sent their little cronies down to Jekyll Island, the Bank of England, to form something called the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve has nothing to do with our U.S. dollar. I hope everybody here in this room knows that. That's what you should be teaching our children, that they can rise up to this evil empire like big tech and big pharma and all these people that are leading our lives. That's what we need to teach our kids. God bless America and whatever's left of it.
Joe Odenthal.
Hello, board. My name is Joe Odendahl with a D. Hard to go anywhere in this town and have it pronounced correctly. There is a D in my name. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for stepping up to be representatives for our family and for our kids. I know you have good intentions and you want to do what's best. So I just want to thank you all for stepping up and being our representatives, because we can't always be there to make these decisions. We're busy raising our children at home, and and worrying about all the other things that are going on. So you are our voice in the schools. I know there are 3 of you that are up for re-election next year, and I'd like to wish you guys the best of luck if you choose to rerun, and hope that you consider what the parents are telling you tonight when you make those decisions. I know wanting to step up into this position, you're not going to want to leave in shame of a community who is against some of the decisions that you are making. Our schools are in trouble, and I'm pretty upset about it. I'm have a pretty calm demeanor, but I'm pretty upset. There's many issues in our schools right now that are they're coming all at once, and it's hard to pick just one that I want to talk to you about. My wife, Chrissy, and I have a 6-year-old son that went to Eagle View for preschool, and we pulled him out last year because of the mask mandate. That was the only issue I was concerned with, was the mask mandate and having a mask on my son while he was in school. My boy is a typical 6-year-old. He plays in the dirt. He hugs people. He shakes people's hands. You know, he's getting dirty, and he's building an immune system, and that's going to be important for him for the rest of his life. And I don't think a mask is going to do him any good. In fact, I think it's going to hurt him. So, well, here we are at the next school year, and I'm still on the fence of whether we're going to put our son in school or not. Not only do we have the mask mandate coming down, the threat of another mask mandate, and you know, vaccine mandates, critical race theory, teaching our kids to be racist or that they are racist. The sexualization of our children in schools hasn't been mentioned much today, but there's language in elementary school curriculum that's sexualizing children, and I think it's horrible. I don't think there's any business at all of that being in the schools. That's a parent's job. I think a lot of these decisions are parents' decisions, and that's why we're here today, to tell you what we want. They are our decisions, and you are our representatives when it comes to the school system. One of the things I'm demanding, and I'm demanding it, is transparency in our school system. When I ask questions of a teacher, or I spoke with the principal of Eagle View today, and I asked him directly via email about critical race theory and sexualization of children in the curriculum, and I did not get an answer on the email. Instead, he called me on a phone, completely off the record, and you know, wanted to have a casual conversation with me and not address the issues directly. He wanted to ask me what these issues meant to me, but I want to know what they mean to him, because he is the one that's, you know, in the school teaching it, and you as the board are making these decisions as well. So full transparency and finding out what exactly is in our school. I don't think we should have to file formal data requests to get this information. If that's the case, I think you should be filing a formal request with us if it's okay to teach these things to our kids. So we're watching, we're talking, we're getting together in our neighborhoods, and as you can see, we talk to a lot of people, and these messages are going to continue to spread, and we're really going to be watching that election next year, and the votes you guys make here today and throughout the school year. So I'm still on the fence about putting my boy in school. It's tough. My wife's been homeschooling at home, and we're lucky that we're able to do that. And man, is he getting some good lessons at home, and we're taking apart engines and reading tape measures, and you know, plus the stuff that's required to teach them. So I just want to thank you guys again for running and being our representatives in the school district, and just know that we're watching. Just know that we're watching, and please listen to us. Thank you.
William Abbott.
First things first, I just wanted to thank all the speakers tonight, especially Rick. Rick, that was powerful, and you cracked it out of the park. So. As you can see, I bleed red, white, and blue. It's besides my family, is the most important thing to me is our country. And before I get into really what I want to say, I just wanted to point out a couple of things real quick. What really got me involved in this was I saw a story that was posted I believe it was last year, from a father, and it was called "COVID Killed My Child." And so I read the story, and it wasn't in the way you would think it did. His 12-year-old son, with the mask mandating and the lockdowns, all that stuff, his little sister found him hanging in his closet. 12 years old, hung himself because of COVID. And if that doesn't shock you and it doesn't make you sit down and really think about things, then there's something wrong with you, especially as a parent. COVID has killed kids. It definitely has. But again, not in the way you think so. More kids in the age groups of 8 to 12 have died from suicide in the last year and a half than COVID has killed. And again, if that doesn't make you think, I don't know what will. Secondly, and please by no means, I respect teachers. I love them to death. It takes a special person to be a teacher. It really does. And the last thing I ever want to do is this, but the truth is the truth, and that's this. If the state tries to mandate these masks again, I have a list right here, and this is just 47 kids. There's a lot more. I just didn't have a chance to put them on the list yet. Witness signatures from their parents that they will be pulled from the district immediately.
51. I got 8 more.
Enough is enough. No more. We as parents are tasked with the safety and security of our kids. And as I think as you can see, we're all up to the task. I'm sure many of you have children, and I ask you this, if somebody came into your house and told you how to parent, what would you say to them? You'd probably ask them to leave. I would sure hope so. To tell us that we have to do these things with our kids is not going to happen anymore. It's done. So now I'll get on to what I really wanted to say. I've been waiting for quite a while now for this opportunity to address you. I want to hit it from a different perspective, okay? America is a land of heroes. It's a place where greatness is born. It's where hope becomes reality. A country where our children learn names like Wyatt Earp, Davy Crockett, Annie Oakley, so many more. It shouldn't be a place where they have to learn about pronouns or worried about how they should use them or shouldn't use them. Or where they're told that if they don't wear a mask, they could kill their friend. That's just not acceptable, and it's not America. It's a place where the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth and Texas Patriots made their last stand at the Alamo. America is carved out of a vast frontier by the strongest, toughest, and most determined men and women that the world has ever even known. Our ancestors built and laid a foundation of the greatest country ever known to humankind, in my opinion, and I hope in all of yours. This nation is an inheritance. It is our canvas, it is our masterpiece. The place where you are free, not controlled. A place where we, the people, we decide what is best for us, especially our kids. It is not a place we are forced to do things that directly contradict what this great nation is founded on, and that's freedom. So I sit in front of you today And I extend my hand to you on behalf of everyone here to work with us. And we will work with you. Nobody wants to work against one another. There's been enough of that. Enough of it. Let's work together. I believe that the results will be a lot better. Great men and women who fought and braved the unknown for the simple thing that we call freedom. To preserve it and to honor it every day. These are our children, not the CDC's or the NIH's or any other government institution. So let us, the parents, decide what is best for them. No more mandates. No more masks. The time is now that we must stand together and do what is right for our kids, our future, our country. Our freedom is depending on it. Thank you for your time this evening. God bless you all, and God bless our great country. Thank you.
That concludes our open forums. That's it. Thank you for being honest.
Didn't mean to do that.
Okay, board, I would like a motion to accept the agenda.
So move. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. A motion for the consent agenda.
So move. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. No policy committee?
No.
Southwest Metro?
Southwest Metro had its first meeting of the new school year after a summer break. And it was a busy meeting. We discussed a lot of items in our new facility. And one of the items that we talked about at the meeting was the fact that instead of being renters, now we will be landlords, and we will actually have 2 programs that are signing up to be at our facility. And I think that's really a great opportunity for our education center there at Shakopee to be a house of education, not just for our own programs, but also for other programs as well. So that was a real positive part of the meeting. We talked about the CET program, the Career Technical Education Program, is adding 3 new facets. We'll be doing a medical assisting program, an outdoor power equipment, small engines program, and a drones program. So we've got some extra things that'll be covered in curriculum in the career and technical education field. We approved tentatively the contract with the teachers. We had our negotiations over the summer and have reached an agreement tentatively with them. They still have to vote on it to get the final approval of the teacher group. We had a nice donation of several items for visually impaired people from a person who passed away, and her daughter saw fit to give it to our school to help out our students who have that disability. So we greatly appreciate that. And then we have a couple of things that you school board members might be interested in. First of all, we have annually done a tour of our facilities, and we will have our tour of the facilities on Friday, September the 24th. It'll go from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. It'll cover all the different centers of the Southwest Metro education programs that we have, and you're welcome to attend if you'd like. And there will be a lunch served as well. So if you are interested, please contact me, and I'll see to it that you're put on the list. And then we have another item too. Since we have the new facility, we are having a tour of the new facility on Tuesday, September the 21st. It will be held on the same night that we have our September board meeting. The tour of the building will be from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And you are welcome to come and look at our new facility and all the improvements that we've actually made on it since we've purchased it as well. So please, again, if you're interested in participating in that tour on September 21st, please contact me and I'll make sure that you're put on the list. Okay?
The September 21st tour is our board meeting, correct? Is that a
Because,
Tuesday?
no.
Oh,
this
it's
is-
your board meeting.
Our board meeting.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Our meetings are on Monday,
Okay.
so we're on Tuesday.
That's, I just missed that part.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Are there any questions about the board meeting? Thank you.
Thanks, Fanny. CPAC,
We did not have a CPAC meeting yet this year.
Community Ed,
No. Wellness? No.
Early Childhood,
No.
Fitness and Aquatic,
No meeting since last meeting.
Superintendent Good News,
Good news, we had 22 new teachers come in last week for our 3-day orientation. It went very well, and we're excited to have them on board. And then this week, today, we started, all our other teachers came in for 4 days of work this week. And this Thursday, we'll have our welcome back celebration in the morning with a lunch served by the Rotary Club of New Prague afterwards. So we got that going on. Thursday is the first day of matches and meets and games. I know swimming and girls swimming and diving and girls tennis, I think, have meets and matches that first day on the Thursday. So we got soccer going and volleyball and football shortly following. So we got a lot going on here in the upcoming week, along with cross-country running. So things are getting busy now. And obviously, school starts next Monday. We start a week before Labor Day.
good. Okay. All right, so the COVID plan update.
Yeah, I just want to, before we vote on the resolution here, just want to share some data with you because, sometimes you read the paper and watch TV, you hear all this stuff, and you really, I think, put things in perspective and really look at it. Best thing we have right now is local control, which we didn't obviously have in the past last year, but not everything's the same. Not all communities think the same way, believe the same things, but also when it comes to COVID rates, just because they might be high in one area in the state or what you might hear from the CDC, it might not be that high. And I'm going to show you that with some data tonight before you vote on the resolution. So we go by, and rather than go by state data, or they always talk about going by county data, we go by zip code data. We care about who's in our district. We go by 4 zip codes, which account for about 87% of our population, our student population, with the other percent actually outside those zip codes because they're open enrollment students. But you can see what I have on there is what's happened the last 3 weeks in August, the numbers that we get from the Minnesota Department of Health. The week ending on Thursday, April 5th, when the data comes out on Thursdays, we had 12 cases. The next week went up to 26 cases, and then finally ended last Thursday, it actually went down 1. The numbers in parentheses are the numbers that our 14-day average per 10,000 people. Now these zip codes account for our district population of about 25,000 people. So putting things in perspective, week ending last week, August 19th, 25 people out of 25,000 people had a positive case. Okay, we'll go to the next one here. So with the zip codes, and what I want to put in perspective here is May 13th, Governor Walz lifted the mask mandate. And that ended in our district at that time. We actually had 53 positive cases the week that he lifted the mask mandate. And like I said, if you look in the bottom there, we have 25 this past week. So even the next week on May 20th when it ended, there was 31. And then obviously we all know that it trended downward after that. Even last week too with the county data, if I compare Mondays, today's COVID cases, just even in the counties, it went down by 2. So hopefully things are stabilizing, but I just want to put things in perspective for you there. And then, again, when you talk about per 10,000, again, why we don't use county data, Scott County and LeSueur County, about 30, Rice County, 28.8. And again, like I told you, we're 20.3. I think that's the most important data. Keep things in perspective. It's not as high as it is within our 3 counties or even in other areas of the state.
Does that include flu data?
No, I'm just on this. Let's just keep going here, please. And just so you know, I think it's important to know what other districts are doing. I know a few districts are deciding tonight. There's only one district requiring masks at our neighboring district. 6 are recommending, just like we'll be recommending tonight in our resolution, not mandating masks. And there are a couple districts north of us that are using a metric system based on numbers, but I just want to share that with you before you vote on the resolution. So that's all I have.
Great. All right, so we have approval for substitute and temporary employment rates. Oh, there you are.
Good evening. Usually the school board meeting prior to school starting, we review our substitute pay rates and other pay rates that are covered by contracts and just ask for your approval on those. First, our teacher substitute rate. The chart that I have here, that we have pre-COVID rate. We had a special COVID rate that we increased on January 1st to try to entice teachers to come and substitute in our district, and then the new proposed rate. The new proposed rate is $145 a day, which would be the highest in the area. That's typically what we are to try to entice substitute teachers to come in and teach for us. The average South Central daily rate is $134, and the average Metro daily rate is $148, which we do actually compete with somewhat. So asking for approval on that at $145. The reserve sub, we were at $20 an hour. We went to $22 on January 1 for COVID, and then we are recommending this year $21. And the rest, and targeted services, that's pretty minor, but we're recommending a small increase in that as well. Student rates, right now we find ourselves competing with other jobs in the area that pay higher. We had been paying $10 or $10.50 an hour. We're asking for an increase to $11 an hour for most student rates. Very easy for a student to find a job that pays $11 an hour or more. The advantage we have is our jobs are typically a little bit more understanding with scheduling and so forth, so we're hoping this $11 an hour will help us attract and retain student workers. Just have a slight increase in early childhood screening staff. We were at $22 an hour. We want to go to $22.50. This is mainly a nurse that does some screening for us for our early childhood program. And then we have our support staff substitute rates. Typically, it's the step 1 of the salary schedule, and we'll review this again when we settle our 21-22 contracts, but want to increase our clerical to step 1 and our nurse to step 1. Again, we are having a terrible time attracting and retaining substitutes, and so you need to make sure we're competitive for these. And last but not least is transportation. Again, we're having a terrible time attracting bus drivers just to drive. If anybody wants to be a bus driver, you can talk to me afterwards. We're in desperate need of bus drivers. And same with bus driver subs. We want to increase our van driver substitute rate from $16 to $16.50 an hour. And again, review these when we settle our 21-22 contracts. That is it for the substitute and other rates of pay. Any questions at all?
Sandy, at one time, we used to have an incentive of former employees coming back and getting a little extra salary because they were former employees. Have we eliminated that incentive?
We have.
Because it just wasn't bringing enough people, or why did we do that?
Yeah, it really didn't. I mean, it's, a lot of it was because they already knew our processes and everything,
Right.
but going to some of the digital things that we have, we felt like it really wasn't appropriate.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the rates.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Approval for 21-22 meal prices.
This is pretty easy this year because we have fully funded student meals again, breakfast and lunch by the federal government through the 2021-22 school year. The USDA has extended that all the way through this coming school year. We do still have adult lunch prices though, and we would like to increase those by 20 cents to get closer to the reimbursement rate that we get for student meals. The average for local and comparable districts for adult meals is $4.02 and $4.07 respectively. But several are over $4 an hour, and we really feel like we need to increase that to $4.15. And of course, we always have a second entree for students at a la carte prices, and we always just adjust those as needed. So this just shows we're not changing our meal prices for students because we don't charge anything this coming year, but we are increasing our adult to $4.15.
Okay, any questions? A motion to approve the price?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Okay, we are on to
The next
resolution.
item is the resolution adopting a health and safety measures for the 2021-2022 school year. Do you have anything else to add to any information about this resolution?
No, just that within the resolution is a recommendation to stick with the recommendation that's parent choice or for masking. This is probably the big thing. And then after the resolution, the authority would be granted to me, obviously with consultation with you, but yes, for any changes.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider the resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas Minnesota statute section 123B09 vests the care, management, and control of independent districts in the state to the school board, and whereas the superintendent of Independent School District 721 is responsible for the management of the schools, the administration of all school district policies, and is directly accountable to the school board. And whereas when responsibilities are not specifically prescribed nor school district policy applicable, the superintendent shall use personal and professional judgment subject to review by the school board pursuant to the school district policy. Whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Minnesota Department of Health have determined that the COVID-19 pandemic is currently ongoing and may remain ongoing for an unknown time. Whereas the Minnesota Department of Education has issued and may continue to issue written guidance for Minnesota schools on educational issues related to COVID-19. Whereas the Minnesota Department of Health has issued and may continue to issue written guidance for Minnesota schools on public health issues related to COVID-19. Whereas the superintendent and the administration of the school district have conferred with the school board regarding the COVID-19 health and safety measures, the current CDC, MDE, and MDH requirements for each, and other relevant information. And whereas based upon the collective consideration of these factors, the superintendent has recommended to the school board that all staff, students, and visitors within Independent School District 721 buildings are recommended but not required to wear a mask, regardless of vaccination status. All staff, students, and visitors within Independent School District 721 buildings, regardless of vaccination status, are recommended to follow the strategies of physical distancing, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and disinfection, and staying home when sick be implemented at the commencement of the 2021-22 school year. Now therefore be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 721 as follows. The superintendent is hereby directed to implement the following safety and health measures. To open the school year, all staff, students, and visitors within Independent School District 721 buildings are recommended but not required to wear a mask, regardless of vaccination status. All staff, students, and visitors within the Independent School District 721 buildings, regardless of vaccination status, are recommended to follow the strategies of physical distancing, hand washing, and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and disinfection, and staying home when sick. The superintendent is hereby authorized, after consultation with the school board chair and notification to the board, to select and implement different health and safety measures for the school district or any specific school buildings without school board action if the superintendent reasonably believes that prompt implementation of different health and safety measures is necessary and that constraints of time and public health considerations render it impractical to hold a school board meeting to approve the implementation. The superintendent will provide regular updates to the school board regarding the school district's efforts to implement the COVID-19 related educational and public health guidance issued by the Minnesota Department of Education and Minnesota Department of Health, respectively. Are there any comments or questions about the resolution? If not, then I'll take a roll of vote. Leo?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Dennis? Yes. Item passes 7-0.
Motion for adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.